everybody. My name is Aimee Slagle, and for my senior project, I decided to create a podcast about happiness. So why happiness? Why would a teenager even care about happiness? Well, I'm 18 years old now, and I'm about to go off to college. And I feel like around this time in our lives, we begin to think about what we want to do and who we want to be. And I found myself focusing less on what did I want to do and more of how I wanted to feel. And the answer was happy. I wanted to live a happy life. And when I say happy, I don't mean grinning all the time and skipping around and whistling. When I say happy, I mean I want to be on my deathbed, and I want to say, well, when I'm old. When I'm old, I want to be on my deathbed and say, I had lived a happy life. I want to be overall content with my life. I want to be this old lady. Minus the cigar. So why a podcast? Well, I wanted to reach a broad audience. I knew there was a need for a happiness podcast out there, but I really didn't realize how big the need was until a few months ago. So a few months ago, I decided to go to an AA meeting. And no, I am not an alcoholic. I was just, it was just a normal Friday night, had nothing to do, so I thought, what the heck? So I went to an AA meeting. And I think they assumed I'm an alcoholic. And we went around the room and they're like, hi, I'm Christy and I'm an alcoholic. I was like, hi, I'm Aimee and I'm a visitor. So there's two things that really surprised me when I went to this meeting. The first was how many people were there. How many people were suffering with alcoholism. And the second was how normal they looked. For some reason, I was expecting them all to look a little rough or have a beer belly or something. I was expecting that you would be able to tell who was an alcoholic. But all these people looked normal. So it made me realize that you can never tell when somebody is really suffering. Like all these ladies, it was a ladies only AA meeting, all these ladies were suffering from alcoholism, but I would have never known that. You can never tell if somebody's happy or unhappy based on their exterior. So I had no idea how to create a podcast. So I sought help from Erica Aguilar, who is a reporter for KUT Austin. And she helped me learn how to interview people properly. And I'm a kind of an introverted person. So like being up here today made me very nervous, and also trying to interview people made me very nervous. So Erica really helped push me to get out of my comfort zone. And recently, actually, unfortunately for me, but fortunately for her, she got a job in LA, so she moved. So I've been recently working with Mr. Dunbar. And he is not the man with the beard, he is this man. So back to the topic about happiness. So what do you think makes a happy person? Your job? Your kids? Vacation? Quitting your job? Yoga? What do you guys think? What makes you guys happy?
Music.
Music? That's a good one. Your kid? Wait, did you say your kids? Anybody else?
Poetry.
Poetry?
Ultimate Frisbee.
Ultimate Frisbee? Okay, so the correct answer is, you're all right. And let me explain why. So when I first started this project, I was looking for this equation to happiness. This 30 minutes of yoga plus 2 best friends minus this amount of stress equals happiness. I was looking for the set formula. But before the fall, we had to do this whole bunch of research and write a 10-page research paper. So I had to learn all this stuff about happiness and positive psychology and all that stuff. And I would read these different articles, and like one person would say, this is what made me happy. And then I would read another article, and they would be like, no, this is what made me happy. And I realized that happiness is unique to every individual. Therefore, an equation does not exist. A set equation simply does not exist. Because everyone is unique. Everyone has had different experiences in life. Therefore, what makes them happy will be different. So I found this out pretty early. So I couldn't make a podcast about. So I wanted to find a happy equation. I figured out it didn't exist. The end. That would be my podcast. That is very short and very boring. Because I had not done any interviews yet. Because this was in the fall before we actually started interviewing people. So I didn't have any audio. So I decided to create a story about my podcast. It would end with the same conclusion that there is no equation to happiness, but I would get there kind of a different way through my interviews. So on this quest to find this happiness equation, I first began with Pat Yinks. Pat Yinks is a Buddhist teacher at the Austin Zen Center. And the main thing I talked about with her was meditation. And I'm sure many of you have seen the Buddhist monks sitting crisscross applesauce doing the thing. They're meditating. But I was like, what in the world are they doing? They just look like they're sleeping. So I asked Pat what they were doing. And this is what she says.
So what exactly is meditation? Is meditation about correcting your thoughts?
Correcting your thoughts?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It isn't correcting your thought, it's just watching your thoughts. And basically in meditation you're sitting very still, because if your body is still, then there's more hope that your mind will get still. Minds are a little bit harder than bodies. So you're sitting still and you're seeing all these thoughts arise, and you're watching them. You're just standing back and watching them.
So basically what meditation is awareness, being aware of these thoughts. And often a lot of people have these negative self-talk that they don't even realize they're having because you're not even aware of it. Most people don't think about what they're thinking about, but this actually can be a really powerful tool, which is what meditation kind of is. And so once you become aware of these thoughts, Pat told me what's really important is to remember that you are not your thoughts. In fact, she said most of the time, don't trust your thoughts, because most of the time they are wrong. Just because you call yourself stupid does not mean you actually are stupid. And just because you might have a mean or bad thought about a person does not mean you are a bad person. And that's basically what she emphasized with me with the whole being aware of your thoughts. And so the next person I interviewed was Eda Sharma Jones. And she's a yoga instructor and a clinical social worker. And she specializes in the treatment of eating disorders. And she started doing yoga a few years ago and was interested in the way it made her feel happier. So she started trying to get therapy groups and centers to incorporate therapy into their programs. And we mainly talked about mindfulness. So mindfulness is about living in the present moment. I'm sure many of you have heard that living in the moment quote, seen a magnet. I mean, it's around a lot of places. Basically, this means is focusing on the now. And here's kind of Annie's definition about what mindfulness is.
I think yoga is just naturally therapeutic. What I love most about it is when you're practicing yoga, you're really learning how to be mindful. You're learning how to be really present in the moment with your breath and with your postures as you're practicing your yoga postures.
When we talk about mindfulness, the definition varies a little depending on the person. But the basic overall summary of mindfulness is living in the present. I'm sure you have all heard the living in the moment quote or seen it on an inspirational magnet. But those 4 words are easier said than done. Annie has her own variation of the definition of mindfulness.
We kind of talked about the definition of mindfulness, which is just quieting the mind by purposefully paying attention to the present in a non-judgmental way. So being able to observe what's going on, but to step away from it and not be, not judge it as good or bad, but instead just sort of be curious about what is it I can do differently.
So just to let you know, these are clips from my podcast. And basically what Annie is saying is that we often focus on, we worry about the past or we're worrying about the future. A lot of times we are doing either or instead of living in the moment. And when we do this, before we know it, our life is going to pass us by because we've spent it all living in our head, being anxious about things that happened or haven't even happened. So when she basically said that if you don't live in the moment, then you're basically not enjoying life. And another technique that we actually talked about was breathing. Oh, I'm going backwards, sorry. Breathing.
I think yoga is just naturally therapeutic.
Okay, breathing, which is one of the most simple things. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but when you're stressed out, you automatically take a deep breath because that's what your body naturally does to kind of maintain homeostasis with emotions. And how they